All right, buckle up, everyone. Get ready for a deep dive into a scientific revolution.
Revolution is right.
Today we're tackling how AI is cracking one of biology's toughest nuts. Protein folding.
It's a big one.
You know how proteins fold into those crazy 3D shapes? And how those shapes determine, everything about how they work.
Exactly. And for decades, figuring out those structures was a massive challenge, or a real bottleneck in biology.
Imagine building a house, but you've got no idea what the bricks look like.
Let alone how they fit together to make walls, doors, a whole structure.
Right. Or even what kind of house you're building. That's what figuring out proteins used to be like.
Except, imagine those bricks coming from 30 different buildings, each with its own weird architectural style, and you've only got this blurry blueprint to work with. That's the complexity we're talking about, especially with something like the nuclear pore complex.
Okay, gotta unpack that one. The nuclear pore complex, that's a mouthful. Why is it so important?
It's like the grand central station of a cell.
Keep going. I like this.
All the traffic in and out of the cell's nucleus, the DNA headquarters, goes through this one complex. Medicines, building blocks, messages. It's a cellular metropolis.
Okay, so before this AI thing came along, how much did we actually know about its structure?
We had a pretty good handle on about 30% of it, but the rest, a total black box. Then, July 2021, things change. DeepMind, the folks behind AlphaFold, they dropped this bombshell in the scientific community.
It's funny, I was reading this article in Nature, and they called it a before and after moment in biology.
Yeah.
Scientists have been using hand-drawn maps, and boom, suddenly they've got Google Earth.
Perfect analogy. That's exactly it. AlphaFold and its predecessor, RosettaFold, they use deep learning, which is a type of AI, to predict protein structures, and they do it with incredible accuracy.
So they've basically given scientists X-ray vision for proteins.
Kind of. It's more like they've studied a library of blueprints, and now they can look at a brand new building and sketch out its entire structure, down to the last detail.
Wow. And here's the really incredible part. DeepMind made AlphaFold open source, right? And they shared their database of protein structures with the entire world. That's like scientific generosity on a whole new level.
It was a game changer. Before AlphaFold, only a handful of labs with tons of resources could even dream of doing this kind of structural biology. Suddenly, anyone with an internet connection had access to this incredibly powerful tool.
Democratizing science at its finest. So, back to our nuclear pore complex. How did AlphaFold change the game for researchers studying this cellular megastation?
Well, we were talking about that blurry blueprint before, right, for the nuclear pore complex. What happened when researchers pointed AlphaFold at it?
Well, it's like they traded that Polaroid for a high-resolution image. AlphaFold was able to predict the structures of those missing pieces. We're talking going from knowing about 30% of the complex to modeling a full 60%. It was huge.
Wow, so they basically filled in the gaps. That's amazing. It's more than just filling in gaps, though, right? I mean, having a clearer picture, it's like we're starting to uncover all the secrets of this cellular gatekeeper, how it recognizes different molecules, how it opens and closes. We're even getting clues about how some viruses manage to sneak past its defenses.
Okay, now that is seriously cool. But from what I understand, AlphaFold's impact goes way beyond just mapping out these complex structures. It's not just about taking static pictures, right?
You got it. And that's where things get even more interesting, I think, because it's like we've gone from reading a book about building a house to having the tools and the blueprints to actually design and build entirely new structures ourselves.
So we're talking about custom-designed proteins. What kind of possibilities does that open up?
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Imagine a protein specifically engineered to target a certain toxin, neutralizing it before it can even cause any harm.
That would be incredible.
Or how about a protein designed to break down plastic waste and help us tackle this global pollution crisis? These are just a couple of the exciting avenues researchers are exploring right now.
It's like we're entering this whole new era of bioengineering, right? Where we're actually harnessing the design principles of life itself to solve some of humanity's biggest problems.
Exactly. And that includes getting a much clearer understanding of life's history, too.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, you see, by comparing the structure of proteins across different species, AlphaFold can actually give us a glimpse into those deep evolutionary relationships between organisms.
So it's like using these tiny protein structures to trace the branches of the tree of life, reaching back billions of years.
You got it. And it's revealing some fascinating surprises. Like we're finding these unexpected similarities between proteins in organisms that are super distantly related. It's hinting at these ancient connections we never even would have guessed at before.
That's amazing. But let's be honest, it all sounds almost too good to be true. Are there limitations to this technology? Where does AlphaFold stumble? It really is incredible, isn't it? Like, we're pulling back the curtain on evolution itself, uncovering those connections hidden in the structure of proteins. But you're right, no technology is perfect. Where does AlphaFold hit its limits? What are those tricky spots?
Well, one of the big challenges is actually predicting how changes in a protein's genetic code, those little mutations, how those changes actually affect its structure and function.
Because even a tiny tweak to the recipe can completely change the final product, right? Like with mutations and diseases.
Exactly. That's what makes it so important to understand. Take cancer, for example. Mutations can totally throw a wrench in the cellular machinery, and figuring out those changes is crucial for developing new treatments.
So AlphaFold can give us that amazing snapshot of a protein's shape, but it can't necessarily predict how that shape might warp or shift if you tweak its genetic blueprint.
Right. Like, not perfectly, not yet. And it's not just mutations either. Another hurdle is dealing with proteins that are kind of like shapeshifters. They have multiple conformations, different shapes they can fold into.
Because proteins aren't static, are they? It's like they're dancing, constantly moving and changing.
That's a great way to put it. And AlphaFold can show us one of those dance moves, one conformation. But some proteins are doing a whole routine, flowing between different positions depending on their environment.
So it's like trying to understand a dance move from a single still image.
Huh.
You need the whole video to really get it.
Precisely. And that highlights a really, really important point. AlphaFold, as amazing as it is, it's not a crystal ball. We still need those tried and true lab techniques. Experimental validation is still absolutely essential.
So it's about combining the power of AI prediction with the precision of those real-world experiments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like having a super detailed map and a compass to really navigate the complexity of protein science.
Exactly. And that combined approach is already leading to some incredible leaps, especially in drug discovery.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, imagine being able to simulate how a potential drug molecule actually interacts with its target protein. Like, does it fit perfectly? Or does it just bounce right off?
Wow, so it's almost having a virtual testing ground for new drugs.
Right. Scientists can use AlphaFold to weed out those duds and zero in on the promising candidates way, way faster.
It's like personalized medicine, but on a whole new level.
Yeah.
As incredible as all of this is, and believe me, I'm blown away, where does this all go from here? What's next for the protein folding revolution?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because the possibilities, they're almost limitless. I mean, imagine using this technology to model entire cellular processes, like watching a high-resolution movie of how a virus takes over a cell's machinery.
Whoa. Or how about designing brand new life forms to, like, clean up pollution or produce sustainable energy?
Exactly. We've gone from deciphering the shapes of individual proteins to this.
Oh.
A future where we can design and control biological systems with a level of precision we never even dreamed of before.
It's both exhilarating and, honestly, a little bit daunting.
It is, and that's why, as excited as we are about all of this, it's crucial that we proceed thoughtfully. We need to carefully consider the ethical implications of this technology.
Because with great power comes great responsibility.
Right.
Making sure these tools are used responsibly for the benefit of humanity and our planet. That's got to be a top priority.
100%. We're talking at the very building blocks of life here.
It's mind-boggling. It really is. It seems like we've only just begun to scratch the surface of what AlphaFold and this protein folding revolution have in store for us. One thing's for sure, though. It's going to be a fascinating journey. Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive.